If you're moving to Omaha from a big city, whether that's Phoenix, Denver, Dallas, New York City, Chicago, there are some things that might surprise you about this city. Some of them are really good surprises, and some of them might come with a little bit of culture shock. And depending on the season of life you're in, this could come as a welcome comfort, a slower pace of life, or it could come as a real shock in a bad way. In this video, I'm going to talk through the things that tend to surprise my clients that have moved here from bigger cities and hopefully set you up for the right expectation for what Omaha is actually like when transitioning from a large city. My name is Morgan Putnam and I am a local real estate agent. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for stopping by the Omaha Insider YouTube video. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you're always the first to know what's going on in Omaha. On my website, www.heymorganputnam.com, there is a free neighborhood guide that you can download. And this will really break down the different neighborhoods in Omaha and to kind of give you the just a brief overview of what every neighborhood is like so you can hopefully narrow down your search so you can find what best suits your needs and your family's needs. We're going to start with public transportation because this can be a real shock and disappointment for folks who are used to really using public transportation in your everyday life. Omaha has the Orbit, which is a bus system that really goes east to west. In most places, it goes north to south a little bit, but really goes along that Dodge corridor, which is the main thoroughfare east to west in Omaha. And this is a decent bus option, but it really is not going to get you to where you actually live. There's that last mile problem over and over again where you're going to have to walk or drive to a bus stop in order to really use it. And it doesn't always run on time or on schedule, and people have just had a lot of complaints with the Orbit bus system. There is going to be a streetcar that goes from Midtown to downtown that has been in the works now for a few years, and it's still projected to take a couple more years. You can Google that if you're interested. There's been a lot of controversy around the streetcar. Piggybacking off of public transportation is the airport. So the airport is getting a major remodel, which is long overdue. It's going to be far more streamlined. It's going to be nicer, have better food offerings, and it's going to have a customs area. So there will be international flights. But at this point, there are no international flights in and out of Omaha. And there are limited direct flight options. So you can get to the major hubs like Atlanta, Phoenix, Denver, Dallas, Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, LA. There are those direct flights. The flights to New York and LA are very limited, where the flights to like Denver, Dallas, Minneapolis, Chicago are very frequent throughout the day. There are limited destinations from Eppley Airfield. There are some major conveniences to living by a tiny airport, like the security lines, but other than that, you're going to be paying top dollar in order to fly to different destinations. If you're going to live downtown, there are some amazing restaurants, and the downtown parks have been completely renovated over the last 5 years and are truly amazing, but there is no grocery store. So there is a Cubby's, which is a gas station corner store situation, and then also Dollar General, but that is really it. So if you're almost living in a food desert by living downtown, and it's going to be about a 10 to 15 minute drive to get to a grocery store to really buy like a full week's of groceries. So it's just something to think about, that it's kind of difficult to have a very urban living situation in downtown Omaha. If you're moving to Omaha from a big city, you're going to be pretty surprised by the pace of life. It's quite a bit slower here, and in some ways that is so refreshing. Like, you're never going to be waiting hours for a bagel. You're not necessarily going to have the world's longest wait time to get into a restaurant. Worst case scenario, you're going to have like a 30-minute wait, and best case scenario, you're going to have no wait and can be seated right away. And that doesn't mean that the food is bad at all, because Omaha has a surprisingly good food scene for how small of a city it is. We have some amazing restaurants. So there are some restaurants that you definitely need reservations at, but other restaurants that are really good, really popular, do not have that long of a wait, even on like a Friday and Saturday night. So that is a welcome change of pace for most people when they move to the city. Alongside that, you can really drive across the whole city in 30 to 40 minutes. It might be a little difficult to go from like Gretna to the airport in 30 minutes, but most places you're going to be able to get in 30 minutes. So you can actually run a lot of errands in an hour or an hour and a half, where in other large cities, that's really not an option. And there tends to be a bit of a social culture shift when you move to Omaha. It is a very relational city, is how I would describe it. People tend to know one another. They want to get to know their neighbors, and you might run into people that you know when you're running to the grocery store or to Costco or to the Target that is closest to your house. It's not unusual to run into people that you know. If you move to Omaha with a family, you'll be surprised to learn how big of a deal the school districts are. A lot of people send their kids to public schools in Omaha, and so people are pretty obsessed with their public school and where their house sits in the sense of which district you're in. There are some private school options. Specifically, there are quite a few Catholic school options, but other than that, a lot of people send their kids to public schools. And so where you live, where your house actually sits, makes a big difference in the public school that you're going to be going to. And so people can become obsessed with it, and we'll talk about it a lot. You can't talk about living in Omaha from a big city and not talk about how much further your money will go when purchasing a house. You're able to get a lot of house here for your money, especially if you're moving from a very expensive state like California or New York City, where homeownership is out of reach for a lot of folks. That is not the case here in Omaha. You can find an absolutely suitable home that is move-in ready for 300, 350,000, and even below that if you're open to something small. There are a lot of different house options. And alongside that, though, is something to think about is that property taxes are really high in Nebraska. And so that can affect your monthly payment if you're taking out a mortgage in big ways. Another thing to think about, especially if you're moving from a southern state or along the West Coast, is that the weather in Nebraska is really difficult. It can be very, very hot in the summer and very, very cold in the winter, and especially with the wind. We have really bad wind chills in Omaha. And so it's just something to think about, specifically if you're moving from a different climate, that it can be a real shock. If you're moving from like Chicago, you're well prepared. These are just some of the things to think through if you're used to living in a big city and what you should adjust your expectations to be like when moving to a city like Omaha. There are so many amazing things about living in Omaha. If you're curious about specific neighborhoods and what it's like to actually live in a certain part of Omaha, do not hesitate to reach out. My number is 402-720-9886, and my website is www.heymorganputnam.com. You can also download my free neighborhood guide for Omaha, and that is on my website as well.